Hey, Chandler Bolt here, and in this video I want to talk to you about how to decide what city and house to live in if you're moving. So if you work remote, or even if you just have the freedom to move, it's kind of a big decision, right? Am I going to stay close to home? Do I want to branch out? Do I want to move somewhere else? What are all the reasons that I might move? Do I know people there? All those things. So it can kind of be this tough decision, but let's first kind of look at it this way. You're one of the fortunate people that has both the ability and the money to move. So this is a good problem, and this is a first world problem, okay? It might still be a problem nonetheless, but this is a really cool perk of working remote. I know a lot of people that work at self-publishing school, they're able to move to different places, but that doesn't mean that the decision is easy. So just recently I decided to move to a new city, and I moved around a couple different times. So I've lived in South Carolina basically my whole life, in a little town called Walhalla, then Charleston for college, then Austria for 3 months, then Des Moines, Iowa for 9 months, San Diego for 2 years, San Francisco for 2.5 years, and now LA. So I've moved around a whole lot, and each time I've kind of not had these decision-making criteria until recently. So my goal is to kind of save you a ton of time, frustration, and hassle by giving you the criteria that you used the most recent time. So the most recent time that I moved, my lease was coming up, and I said, okay, I don't have to live here. If I was choosing from scratch where to live, where would I move? So I kind of went through this whole process of saying, hey, what are the 5 to 10 most important things for me in the city that I live in? And now I would encourage you to do this activity. So just sit down, maybe even pause this video and write out, what are the 5 to 10 most important things for me? So for me, it was things like the people in the city. So are the people there, are they inspiring? Are they up to cool things? Are they gonna challenge me to grow? The weather, I realized that's really, really important. I moved to San Francisco, didn't like the weather as much. So I said, hey, I need to find something where there's better weather. For me, it was also things like taxes. You know, there's 8 tax-free states. So as someone who makes a decent amount of money from my business, that becomes a big needle mover. I have friends who are literally paying for their dream home in Austin, Texas from the money they saved moving from California to Austin, right? So that's a serious contender. Do I have a potential roommate or people that I know in that city? How many people do I know there? Are there, in my phase of life, are there women there that I might marry, right? So values match, number of women, things like that. I know in San Francisco, it's hardly any women. So it's like, hey, I need to set myself for success here, go to other places that might be a better spot. So those are the 5 to 7 things that were most important to me, and then I numbered them in order of importance. Now then, I was able to kind of take and say, hey, these are the 3, 4, 5, 6 top cities that I'm considering. So then I'm able to rank all of them on a scale of 1 to 10. I know this is getting nerdy, and it's only gonna get more nerdy, but I'm basically able to take all these cities. So for me, it was New York City, San Francisco, LA, and Austin were my top 4, and then Nashville and Denver were kind of a close 5 and 6. But I took the main 4 and I said scale of 1 to 10 for all these things. Let's rank them, let's weight this ranking, and let's get a number to it, right? So now I'm able to have kind of a quantitative analysis, and then obviously I did qualitative research. So for me personally, posted on Facebook, got a lot of feedback from a bunch of different people. I talked to people who had made that move. Have you lived in San Francisco? Have you lived in LA? Have you lived in New York City? Have you moved? Preferably, have you lived in multiple of those spots? What did you like better? What did you like worse? And I was able to kind of, over time, kind of form a better opinion. Now I picked the city. So for me, it was Venice Beach area outside of LA. So I picked the city. Now we move into how do you actually pick a house? So I've got a different video on how to create an entrepreneur house or a co-living house. If that's something that you're interested in, I definitely recommend that you check out that video. For me, that's something I was trying to set up. So I said, let's set up an entrepreneur house in Venice Beach. And so now I got together with those guys and said, what are my decision-making criteria? So I came up with my 5 to 10 decision-making criteria for the place I wanted to live in. So it was things like square footage, number of bedrooms. Is it, I have a scooter that I ride all over the place, and traffic sucks in LA, right? So it's like, all right, can I scooter to the places that I want to go to? So maybe that's the beach, maybe that's the float tank, things like that, right? So I'm gonna be able to scooter to places. How close is it to the airport? For me, I travel a ton. So for any place that I'm gonna live, any house that I'm gonna live in, it's gotta be within 20 minutes of the airport, right? Because if I'm 45 minutes from the airport, now I'm wasting an hour or 2 of my life every time I travel anywhere. And that's just kind of a deal breaker. I mean, if you fast forward that out over a year, I've wasted hours, if not days of my life on something that I could just choose not to do, which is, yeah, sure, I might pay a little bit more money, but I could live closer to the airport. So that's a big thing for me. So what I would encourage you to do is list out what are your decision-making criteria. Now, I'll show you kind of a spreadsheet that I put together here. I might even include a link to a template that you can use. This is super nerdy, but I was able to say, hey, like one of our things was we want a hot tub, right? So does it have a hot tub? Natural lighting is important. So it's like scale of 1 to 10, how good is the natural light? Does it have an outside patio? Any of those things, right? So kind of figuring out what's most important to me, what are my nice to haves and what are my have to haves, right? So these are my non-negotiables. These are the things that would just be kind of nice. So for me personally, hot tub, that's a nice to have, not a have to have, right? So just being clear on those things. So once you do that, it'll be much easier to figure out where do you want to live, and maybe you'll decide that you want to stay in the city that you're living in right now. That's fine. I think you'll still find value from going through that process, and then whether you decide to move or stay in the city that you're in, you'll be able to pick a house that really makes you feel good, right? And as someone who works from home, it's so important that the place that you live in, it's an environment that supports your goals, and it's an environment that supports your well-being. So I'd love for you to comment below this video. Let me know what you learned, what was your number one takeaway, and also anything you do when you're deciding whether or not to move or what house to live in, what are your non-negotiable criteria? Maybe there's some funny ones. Comment below, let me know on that too. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. See ya.